Welcome to Book Review on Trust TV, where we talk with African and international authors, review books and adaptations while inspiring especially the younger generation into inculcating the habits of book reading. I am Sumaya Abubakar with my beautiful co-host,
Salamatu Sule.
So here we are of the opinion that instead of letting books grow moldy in the library, at home, or office, it is better to let them wear out by being read. The more that you read, the more things you will know. And the more that you learn, the more places you will go. So on today's episode, we will be talking about reading culture. So Salamatu, let's dive into reading culture.
Yeah, so you can always talk about reading and reading and reading. Reading makes us whole, you know? And it was Rick Holland who said, reading culture takes you everywhere. The world actually belongs to the reader.
That's true.
Yeah, so you can imagine that in Nigeria we have a lot of authors churning out, a lot of books in our libraries, a lot of books in our bookstores. But you wonder, have we really been reading? And if we have, how has it further impacted us as human in terms of development and in terms of making us confident? So the whole art of reading culture, it's something that is on the decline in Nigeria. And we're trying to see how reading culture can be further extended and expanded in the society that we live in, looking at it from a more school perspective. And for the general public, we're trying to look at it from that perspective of reading for the art of enjoyment and for the art of self-development. So that's one thing about reading culture. Reading helps us to shape ourselves, to become very confident, and to build a better society. Someone once said that once you read, the generation actually belongs to the readers.
That's
so
true.
If we're going to have good leadership in this country, then we have to have a well-informed citizen who can actually take the mantle of leadership and then build the society that we all crave for. But the question is, how much have we done to improve the reading culture in Nigeria?
Honestly, that is a huge question, Salama, to that. I don't know who to ask at this point, but this is one of the essence of our show, where we are trying to bring in people to understand the fun. Let's even forget about academy, the fun of reading. When you have become so engrossed in reading books and you're having a particular culture on how you go about reading your books, then I feel like when you go back to school, then you become this great person that your mates are rushing to catch up to.
Let me take it from this place, right? The foundational level is actually critical. From that babbling stage where you see a child trying to make a picture out of an object that she sees, you begin there to nurture that child in terms of comprehension. How is that child able to put out his or her thought processes into becoming something whole and something that resembles, how do I put it now, the developmental impact of the child. So sometimes our parents do not look at their words to see what they are able to comprehend in terms of the letter and how they're able to pick up a language. And that's where we should start from, the foundational level. We should look at the child's capacity in terms of how he or she is able to comprehend. And we should at that time begin to introduce our kids to how to read. From that simple ABCD to how to merge the words together to creating a sentence. It doesn't have to be taking that child to the kindergarten or having to put that child in school. No, it starts from the home. Capture them young. And if we don't do that, it might have a kind of psychological impact on that child when he grows up. Do we now look at kids going out to just play like what Jack does and makes him a lazy man? Or do we want to begin to, take that child through a gradual learning process from that babbling stage down to his or her holophrasic stage? Once we're able to do that, then we'll begin to create a community of a well-informed human being.
Salamatu, your point is made, but I feel like when you say leaving the children to play, African parents are parents that always tell you, go inside and take your book and read, or check your assignments. The only thing that I feel like African parents are missing out when it comes to, starting a child early in book reading is that we do not look at what the whites are doing. That is considering that they sit down with their child, read these books to them, and where they find these difficult words, you call out to the child and tell, okay, this is the meaning of this particular word. When a child is going to bed, you read him bedtime stories. That's how you actually inculcate. You put that idea of a child wanting to pick a book by themselves to read.
Yes,
but then us here, we do not support that kind of thing. We just send your child to just go read a book, and the child finds it boring at some point. So I feel like that's where we're lacking when it comes to African book reading.
Yeah, so I hope that viewers who are watching today's program will take note of these very important issues that you've raised. I come from that background where I'm being told to go inside and read my book. And even if I'm being punished, I have like 12 newspapers or some articles to read. And the result of that punishment is for me to come back and give a summary of what I have read. So it doesn't necessarily mean I'll just go inside and sleep, because there's nobody who is going to help me to review all that I've read. That's and that true. Could attract further punishment. Now, parents need to understand that gradually they need to follow their kids throughout his or her learning process, help him or her to gain their thought process in that positive light.
I agree with you, Salamatu.
Exactly.
But then it would be better for us to have an author who would come and explain to parents more on this. So let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll meet the author of the book Fanta. Do stay tuned.
That's great.
Welcome back from the break. If you're just tuning in, this is Book Review. And before we went on a break with my co-host, of course, Salama Tusile, we spoke of the importance of reading culture. But now I'll let Salama to introduce our guest.
So welcome back. Today we're here with a special guest. She is Hadiza Bagudu. Hadiza Bagudu is a multi-talented creative writer, author of many works. Her debuted novel, Fanta, is critically acclaimed in that right. Fanta is a story of a young Fulani girl from Bororo who falls in love with a very good lad who actually brought about the plottal twist of her novel. Hadiza Bagudu, you're welcome to today's program.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, so earlier we started with the conversation about reading culture. I mean, you've written so many works, and in that light, I wanted to ask how you're able to achieve this, being a mother of two, being a creative entrepreneur, and you do a lot of things. You seem to also be in the cyberspace. I mean, you have your digital blog that you churn out content all the time. How are you able to achieve this? I mean, being a writer, of course.
Well, I would say consistency.
Wow.
I try to write every day.
Okay.
I carve out time. Even during my busy schedule, I try to carve out 10-20 minutes at a time to do something, and you will be surprised at how much you can achieve in just 20 minutes. Then I'll continue with my day. If I see another time, I'll carve out another 20 minutes, do something else. That's what I do every day.
I mean, this is very interesting. And Smaya, this is something we even talked about about the reading culture. We didn't talk about the whole idea of time. Like today in Nigeria, with the whole hustle, that parents really have time for their kids. And here's Hadiza talking about carving out time, which I think is a very important
And this is not only about reading. She's talking about writing, which we know is like the big deal. I would really want to know, and of course I know the viewers would want to know more about this book writing. How did it start?
Well, even as a kid, I've always loved to read. And when you read a lot, when you like reading, writing just comes out naturally. So
naturally?
Yes, yes.
So all of us, we that love reading, we can just start writing?
Then you have the potential to write. You just haven't really sat down to do it, but you have the potential.
But what would you say is your great support when it comes to, you know, your humble beginning, how it started?
Well, how...
Who supported you? Who helped you?
In the beginning, it was my mother. My mother loved the fact that I like reading and that I wanted to write. She gave me support. She got books for me. I remember even back then. But as a kid, I was nervous, you know. There is this thing behind that I'm always thinking of. Maybe I was worried that, people will read my book and think that it's stupid. I started writing since, let's say, something like 8 years old. But I keep hiding it. My mother did everything to encourage me, but it wasn't until 2008 before I was able to, get the courage to publish my first book, The Thin Line.
The Thin Line.
And when people read it, they liked it. So, it gave me the confidence to continue.
How about your support from family, though? You said you're married and kids.
Yes. I have the full support of my husband, my children. They love to read my books. And I try to write books that are, kid-friendly. They can read it. So
just quickly take a short break. And when we come back, we'll continue talking to Hadiza Bagudu.
That's great. It's good to see you.
Welcome back to Book Review on Trust TV. So Salamatu, before we went on a break, you were about asking a question?
Yes, so Hadiza, I was going to ask, you are from northern Nigeria, and we've always had this issue of low reading culture, and of recent we have so many female northern Nigeria writers, but they are also going on the extinct. And you're representing this image of female from northern Nigeria. How would you say the journey has been like for you?
The journey hasn't been easy because, like you said, there is low reading culture, and there is very little support. Yes, even though you usually get support from your family, but that's very few people outside that group supports you. Publishing itself is very expensive. you know. As a writer, you know, normally you go to a traditional publisher, they will take the responsibility of everything, and they do marketing, do everything for you, and then pay you your royalty. Unfortunately, in this country, it seems there is more of personal publishing, more of private publishing. Traditional publishing is not that common. So it's now very difficult for the writer. Not only do you have to come up with such a large amount of money in order to publish your work, but you also have to do all the marketing, you know, there's so much rejection, you know, and everything. So it becomes discouraging. You don't have enough time to write. I'm sure many of the writers, they have a lot of ideas that they want to put down, but because they are so busy trying to recover the money they have spent in publishing their books, it just stops, you know. And after a while, when you are not making any profit, you are not, and with all the discouragement, you know, you just stop. And it's unfortunate.
Well, that's so disappointing. And
Yes.
we hope it, you know, improves from this complaint. So, Fanta, we're here to talk about your book, Fanta. What inspired this story? Because Salamatu mentioned it's all about Fulani and your Fulani.
Yes,
so, what is the inspiration behind this book?
Well, my life growing up, actually, I grew up among the Fulani. I was fortunate enough to meet my grandmother. You know, she's dead now, but I grew up with her. I could hear stories, you know, she tells me a lot of stories. You know, I was able to go to the villages. So from memory, I was able to come up with that. Of course, I also had to do research. You know, I tried to tie it to colonial era, you know, with the coming of the Europeans. They disrupt a lot of things, the lives of the people in the whole of the country, but I wanted to show the impact they had in the on the Fulani culture when they came. So.
Okay, so that was about how it started.
Yes, yes.
So, what made you tell the story of Fanta? Fanta, particularly, that's the main character.
Yes, I wanted to write a love story, but much more than that. Like I said, I wanted to show people the Fulani culture. You know, there is this air of mystery around the Fulani, especially the nomadic tribe, because they keep to themselves. It's, you know, people come to all kinds of conclusions about them. So I wanted people to have an insider look into the culture.
Would you say you clarified everything, considering people are thinking...
I did my best.
You mentioned that people are thinking Fulani are like mysterious, right?
Yes.
But then now there's this perception that they're violent. Would you say that you clarified that in this book?
Yes, I did. I did my best to do that, because, you know, when you get to understand them, anyone can be violent if you provoke them. And, you know, I don't want to get too much into that, but one of the things that is causing the violence is provocation. They were being provoked. But really, when you get to know the Fulani people, when you get to live with them, you find out they have this code of, they are very kind. They have this love of family, love, you know, they are very peaceful people with a beautiful culture. But you have to get to know them, you know, and because they keep to themselves, it's hard to do that. But thank God, there are different types of Fulani. There are the settled Fulani who mingle with people, they intermarry with other tribes. So, you know, you can get to, by getting to know those ones, you can actually get to know the nomadic ones.
Okay, so for me, I think reading your book, Fanta, has been like a wonderful experience for me. And the whole book is a historical fiction, or I'll call it a faction, because most of the thematic issues that you discussed in this book are actually very relevant to today's discourse. One of the issues is that of the Fulani cattle headers clashes that we've been having, and how they've been able to metamorphose from that gentle, you know, pictorial, beautiful Fulani maid to becoming something more violent, picking up the AK-47 as against the stick and the nomadic, romantic kind of picture that we used to get in those days. Now, there's something that you have created in this story that is historical. That is the whole empire, that we used to have in those days. You've been able to bring back that historical moment and then injecting some sort of fictional angle, which is the love tangle between Haya and Fanta. I wanted to ask you, did you do this deliberately because you wanted to send a message to your readers, or did you just wrote it out of the fact that history is fast going on the extinct and there is this whole idea of reawakening history?
Yeah. We have this modern era that we are living in. We have allowed other, let's say, foreign cultures to, to influence us. We are forgetting history. Our children these days, they know more about the Western culture than their own culture, and it's unfortunate, I think books like this are needed so that, to remind them how beautiful our cultures are. Of course, we also have some negative aspects of our culture that should go extinct, but there are some beautiful aspects as well. And I think it's important that writers, remind children.
Yeah, I could really reckon with the culture of the Sharo, for instance. I don't know, Sumaya, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, this generation would rather not go to get flogged as it used to be in those days. But you will agree with me that is one very valuable culture that we need to preserve. And now that you have put it in a document, it will help the incoming generation to realize that at a certain point, we really do have a systemic, culture that is highly developed. Nobody came to meet us as dark. We already have an existing.
They say history is written by the victors. We unfortunately in Africa, it took us a long time to start writing, as in to start documenting our history. Although it's curious because I know that here in the north we have our own Arabic writing. Why didn't we document our own history? I don't understand why.
It's just like you mentioned that we were being influenced easily. Yeah, but we hope that the younger generation would have something to fall back to. Okay, so lastly, we would want to know how can people have access to, of course, your books, soft copy, hard copy?
If you are in Abuja, you can just go to Sahat stores. My books are there in their bookshop.
I think that would do.
Yes.
That's fine. Okay.
But I also have e-copies in case of those who are not in Abuja.
So for people in Abuja that would want to have Fanta. Fanta is a lovely book. Let's try and read it. I mean, I started reading the excerpt and I fell in love with it, Salamatu, I must say. And I cannot wait to dive into this. So we would say thank you so much, Hadiza, for coming to our show. And we hope that when next you publish another book, you get to come in.
Yes, so I just want to say that for viewers out there who are listening and watching us, we just discussed Hadiza Bagudu's Fanta, a fantastic book indeed that you should read. For that purpose, history is something that we need to document, and we urge you to help us reawaken the reading culture and our history.
Well, thank you, Salamatu, also. Whether you are an avid reader or wish to read more, don't procrastinate. Start now. Pick a book and schedule it into your routine. A page a day or a week would give you that powerful knowledge. That is all we have for you today on Book Review on Trust TV. I remain your host, Sumaya Abubakar, and my co-host,
Salamatu Sule is good.
Do not.
Yes, Salamatu Sule. It's been an.
No, I'm coming. I'll take it again.
Okay.
Okay, from the person operating the prompter has forgotten me. Whether you are an avid reader or wish to read more, don't procrastinate. Start now. Pick a book and schedule it into your routine. A page a day or a week would give you the powerful knowledge you need. Like Charles Baudelaire said, a book is a garden, an orchard, a storehouse, a party, a company, by the way, a counselor, a multitude of counselors. And that is it on Trust TV book review today. I am Sumaya Abubakar with my co-host.
And I'm Salamatu Sule. It has been a wonderful experience.
Thank you for watching, and do not forget to read a book. Until next time, bye.
Bye.